I like Wario, and that is a huge understatement because anybody who knows me knows for a fact that I really, really like Wario. He is my favorite fictional character of all time. There are not very many character analysis videos of him, even though he's a surprisingly deep character. I mean, well, there is that video, but no one has ever made a good Wario in the character analysis video, and someone has to. And that someone is going to be me. So I'm going to break this video down into chapters. The 64 era, the GameCube era, the Wii era, and the modern era. So let's go start at the start. And the start is the N64 era, beginning with Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Well, yeah, okay. Well, I know that it's a Game Boy game, but it's still 64 era, so I'm just counting it with the Game Boy games. And the same as later, all the GBA lumped in with GameCube, DS with the Wii, and Mario Land 2 was an amazing game for the time, right? The devs didn't even know if anyone would play it, so they added a bunch of experimental features just to fuck with the player's psyche. Like the plot is a bit more complicated than a typical Peach gets kidnapped story, but I mean, let's be real, it's still a Mario story. During the events of the first Mario Land game, Wario, who was the guy that Mario had accidentally bullied as a child and swore vengeance upon him, has spent almost 20 years formulating his most evil plot yet. He was going to brainwash the citizens of Mario's private island. Yeah, he has one of those. And he was going to steal Mario's castle. And yes, he has one of those too. And this was Wario at his peak villainy. He was not just bad Mario, he was evil Mario. But in Wario Land 1, 2, and 3, we see a little bit more of a personal look at Wario. Like, he's still an asshole, but he isn't so evil all the time. Like, he's a humble farmer with a pet chicken, more on her later, believe it or not. And it looked like he was transforming from an evil man to just an opportunistic guy, Just a guy in the ground returning Princess Peach statues, getting his stolen stuff back, saving pocket dimensions. Somebody does a lot, by the way. But that was up until Mario Tennis 64, when Wario's partner in crime made his debut. And I know it's still a Wario video, so I'll keep this part brief, but who the fuck is Waluigi, anyways? So, the American versions say that no one knows if they are brothers or not. The British versions say that they are brothers. Miyamoto has not said anything about it, and Charles Martinet says that Waluigi is just Wario's sneaky pal. And me, well, personally, I just don't really care, to be honest. But for the sake of the video, let's just say that they went to the same gym, bonded over their hate of the Mario Bros, something like that, and then here we are. So in Tennis 64, Wario and Waluigi have this aura about them. It's hard to describe. It's like Bowser, he's this big tough guy that everyone's used to being this big tyrannical dictator, the face of evil and all that. But Wario, he's like dark and mysterious, It's like you're worried that anything you might say to him might set him off and kill everybody. I mean, Waluigi was the same. He never really grew it though. Yeah, he definitely got a little cartoonier, but he's still a crazed maniac at heart. And up to this point, this might be the darkest we've seen Wario. The rest of the era is just stuff like Wario Blast or Dr. Mario 64, where adventures go wrong or he's just up to no good, just just Wario shenanigans. All in all, I will say that the 64 era Wario is classified as I'd say he's a big, bad, selfish brute that hates everything and is only moderately content when he's lazing about. Next up is the GameCube era, and spoiler alert, it is my favorite era of not just Wario, just Nintendo in general. I'm gonna start off by talking about Wario's Warehouse from Nintendo's old website. It features a bunch of articles co-written by Mark Green and Richard Moulton, and the collective issues together are my favorite book of all time. They're all on the Mario Wiki. I totally recommend they read because they're just hilarious. They always make me laugh out loud, even on rereads. but they all portray Wario as a guy that just does not give a shit. Like here is a brief snippet from the A Link to the Past issue. So Waluigi's stuck approximately half a kilometre down below the Earth's crust, and all because I asked him to check the wash label on his filthy shirt. He didn't think to actually take off the shirt, instead started spinning around like a dog chasing his tail, and ended up churning his way through the ground like a giant purple drill while I stood and watched with the kind of calm neutrality that I reserve for these special Waluigi moments. And he's still chaotic in most of the issues, but he's clearly playing the straight man in the comedic duo with Waluigi, who is just autism. Like when Waluigi asked me if cats grow up to be tigers. And here is when it was revealed that the hen from Wario Land 2 was not his pet, and in fact was just part of a failed business that he sold to start the warehouse. I hate it when people online say, "Oh, Wario's actually a good guy, but he has a pet chicken." Well, first of all, Hitler had a pet dog, so it doesn't really change anything. But also, he sold the chicken, so it's like it doesn't make any sense. But you do see this more calm, reserved Wario continue in the Mario Power Tennis in the legendary cutscene that starts the game. It's just in the little details like Waluigi being the one to vandalize the poster, or like when they're running in opposite directions, Waluigi turns around, Wario doesn't even notice that he's going the wrong way. Now on to WarioWare, the game that stupid people accuse of killing Wario's character, and the game that even stupider people accuse of being the true representation of Wario's character. It was definitely a good characterization of Wario, especially for the time and the other games we see around it. Like he gets an idea, and he goes all in on the idea, and then he gets bored again. He's like, I don't know how to code. And then he gets excited again. He's like, oh, I have friends that know how to code. And this isn't anything new either, right? Going back to Wario's Warehouse, he gets really like passionate and angry when talking about how Nintendo is putting too much effort into Mario and Donkey Kong games. And he gets so passionate about talking about money in his own games, you know? Or like in Mario Power Tennis, he looks ecstatic when he's bombing the stadium with his friends. Like he is the exaggerated Mario. I mean, that's much as obvious, but really think about it, right? Mario likes to nap and chill, and he's just a chill guy. When trouble strikes, he immediately engages and gets all hyped up. But Wario is the embodiment of sloth, lazing about. He does not give a shit about anything until he does, and then he gets serious. And the peak serious Wario, from this era at least, is in Wario World. I mean, it would be a sin not to mention it. He's just basking in his own glory after finally putting all of his money and all of his treasures into one big castle, full of all of his cash littered all across the place, till a godlike being steals it all. This sends Wario into a permanent bloodlust for the rest of the game, until he can get back every single penny. And then he just goes right back to sleep. And real quick before we move on, I just really wanted to mention the Wario Land 4 and Wario World manuals because they're awesome. They just show him as a chill guy, but it also reinforces the fact that he's just really weird and gross. Like I love the language he uses in it. It's not like anything we've seen up until now. I don't think. It's just in the little details of his dialect that stand out, like him saying like, "Oh, my bladder rolls," or vegging out on the couch, or "These nitwits don't know anything. The future, the economic forecast, world peace, nothing." It's like I don't think we've ever seen Wario talk in this sort of way ever again. I don't even think, but I always love seeing it. Next up is the Wii Era for our favorite human incarnation of a bulldozer. And to be honest, didn't really change much. In Wario Land Shake It, he's still a lazy guy, doesn't really care about anything. Right up until the promise of literal infinite money comes along, and then he's bouncing up and down like no one's around. Smooth Moves is just him adventuring. The Mario Party games from the Wii era are definitely what solidified him as the greedy guy, like a greedy caricature with nothing else about him. To at least to people that haven't played the Wario games. And something else I find interesting is his portrayal in Super Smash Bros. Brawl Subspace Emissary. No, not that portrayal. But I see a lot of people giving this portrayal shit online for being too out of character. I mean, it's exactly in line with what we've seen from Wario from the 64 era. Opportunistic, ruthless, willing to trample over anybody for profit, and you can still describe Wario as those things today. Oh, Wario wouldn't hurt a child. According to fucking who? He's a villain. You mean to tell me that the guy that was perfectly okay letting multiple pocket dimensions either die or be enslaved that went for a paycheck, and the guy that held a grudge for over 20 years and still counting, and the guy that bombed a stadium, albeit by accident, would have such moral objection to fighting children with overpowered psychic abilities? I mean, especially when it's implied that the statues are worth something, like when we see King Dedede collect them. And Sakurai does like to have characters' Smash portrayals be based off of older interpretations, like when we see with the Kirby and Mario characters especially. But I mean, also with Snake and the Street Fighter reps, and I could go on, but you get it. You get it. But, there isn't much else from this era of note. This is just when Nintendo started playing it safe, were too afraid to give their characters personality, and as we will see continue in Okay, so I will say that the WarioWare games from Gold onwards have the best Wario characterization, even if he's barely in the fucking games. I mean, in Gold, he's back to big evil schemes, but in a way more cartoony way. Because it turns out that the treasure that he was okay fighting yet another child for was just a communal toilet of a small village. But he still tried to steal his friend's money, and this time was way more pathetic than anything. Like, he was just scrambling to the suitcase of money, and I think this may be the only time their friends actually got their stuff back. And Get Together is just apathetic. It's like they were trying to make him like the GameCube version, but he just doesn't care about anything the whole way through. I mean, it's fine, I guess. It's just a bit weird. In Move It, he's on holiday and he's just accidentally running into problems ass first. And he's trying to relax, but just things aren't going his way. It's an improvement to Get Together, but it's alright. The only other game left worth mentioning is Tennis Aces. Well, we see him and Waluigi in a different light. Before they were always on the same page, but here we see them argue and bicker all the time, which I appreciate. It's sending the message you don't always have to get along 100% of the time, because that's what brothers are, biological or not. So, to summarize, Wario is not just a greedy caricature. He's a layered and evolving character whose journey mirrors a unique blend of opportunism, mischief, and just raw determination. From his early days as a menacing villain, in the N64 era, to his more laid back portrayal during the GameCube era, Wario's transformed from a dark and mysterious figure to a relatable anti hero, a man who embodies both ambition and laziness in extremes. The Wii era leaned into his more opportunistic nature, showcasing he's willing to do anything for riches, even if it meant embracing villainy. But in the modern era, Nintendo has largely softened his edge, but the WarioWare titles and his relationship with Waluigi have allowed glimpses into his original charm and unpredictable nature to shine. Though through it all, Wario remains a testament to embracing flaws, staying unapologetically yourself, and finding humor even in failure. He may not be the traditional hero, but Wario proves time and time again that he's the most human of all. So whether he's smashing castles, running businesses, or just vegging out on the couch, Wario reminds us to live boldly, greedily, and to always win.